Greetings, one and all, and welcome to what's now a sunny MKM Stadium. It wasn't for much of the early afternoon as Hull City beat Sheffield United by a solitary David Akintola goal 10-0. The first home win over Sheffield United in 5 attempts. We'd lost the last 4, but also a second consecutive win over Sheffield United, having won there 3-0 at Bramall Lane in January. Huge 3 points for the Tigers. It moves them on to 12 points from their 9 games. And at the start of play, at the start of the 3 o'clock games, just a point outside the top 6, although it doesn't really mean anything in the table at this stage, it's a huge step forward. And I think if we're brutally honest with ourselves, at half-time on Tuesday night, when we were 2-0 down to Preston after that awful first half, if you'd have said at half-time against Preston, you're going to get away with 4 points from the next game and a half, I think you'd have been surprised. So huge credit for coming back and getting something on Tuesday night. And then today, the clean sheet is so important for them. And we saw a different type of City again today, didn't we? We saw a really gritty, scrappy, just that will to not lose the game. Once they got in front, and we'll come on to the goal in just a minute, once they got in front after on the half hour, they kept United at arm's length for the most part. Yes, before that, Gus Harmer had hit the post. Then we had the drama, 3 or 4 minutes from time, when Shemi Ajay, on his return to first-team action for the first time since Coventry, fouled Danny Ings, and they had a penalty. And you kind of crestfallen at that moment because you 1-0 up, you've battled so hard, you've as I say, you've kept them at arm's length. Ivor Pandur in goal has barely had a save to make. And out of nothing, Ings is going down the left side of the penalty area, and Ajay catches the back of his Achilles, and it's soft, but it is a penalty. I thought it was in real time, albeit from miles away. I've seen a grainy replay in the aftermath, and I still think it's a penalty. Ajay doesn't need to make the challenge. As I say, he's shadowing Danny Ings down the left hand side of the penalty area, and he just catches him. That's probably rustiness, the fact that Shemi hasn't played since the opening day, and you're kind of expecting that Harrison Burrows is going to stick it in the back of the net and they're going to get out of here with a point or potentially worse, because once suddenly it goes 1-1, their tails are up, there's 5 minutes of added time. We've all seen what happens. Potentially it could have got even worse for City, but Ivor Pandur made a really, really good save away to his right. It wasn't the best penalty from Burrows. And when you see I've seen the sky angle. When you see the sky angle from behind the goal, Ivor had sort of moved to the right, and the way Burrows set up, it was obvious where he was going to go. And look, take nothing away from the goalkeeper, because you've got to save it, then you've got to hold it, and he did. And that was, given the struggles defensively they've had this season for the back 4 and the goalkeeper, so the back 5, to get that clean sheet is so psychologically important. And once he saves that penalty, you kind of felt it was going to be City's day, because United, they huffed and they puffed. But as I say, yes, they're bottom of the table. Yes, they've lost 7 of 8 in the league, 8 of 9 altogether, or whatever it was. Their only win was at Oxford last weekend. They have still got quality players, and you look at that. You look at the top of their pitch. You've got Harmer. They're bringing on Tom Cannon. They're bringing on Danny Ings, Tyrese Campbell. They obviously started with Callum O'Hare. Louis Barry came on and was totally ineffective, but they've got good players, and that's largely a squad that got 92 points last season. Yes, they've had a nightmare start. It can happen, but I think that in some respects that was more impressive than the Southampton game, because the way you expect a reaction from Sheffield United. You expect under Wilder that they're going to be. They could do to City what City have done to them today, and I think to come away with a 1-0, it shows that they're getting better. They're learning. The fact that against one of the top teams in the division, they've been able to sit in. They've not created a huge amount, but they've got the goal, and they did have other moments as well where they could have maybe sealed it. Ollie McBurney had a really good chance second half, where he intercepted a poor pass across the pitch, sort of got into the box, twisted and turned, and then almost did all the hard work, but couldn't find the finish, and Michael Cooper saved it. There was another chance where, almost a carbon copy of the second goal on Tuesday night, where Miller stops, plays it through, Giles runs through, but he couldn't find the pass back from McBurney, and it was intercepted and cleared. And but look, in a game of so few chances, City were, had their own. As I say, United, Pandur had 3 attempts. They had 3 attempts on target in the game. So it's not like they were banging on the door and hammering on it and creating chance after chance. They didn't. They were poor. Harmer's effort in the first half aside where they hit the post, then they have the penalty. They've not created anything. So this is not like a 1-0 smash and grab, or you've come away, we've 1-0, but Sheffield United were battering us and we got out. It wasn't a get out of jail or anything, I don't think. Obviously Pandur's save gets them a point, but I don't think you could say that they didn't deserve it purely for the way they defended their box. And we've criticised them so much this season because they've been poor defensively. But I thought Egan and Charlie, I thought that was Charlie Hughes' best game since Coventry. Thought he was brilliant. Egan was fantastic, and massive rewards for him getting called up to the Ireland squad for the first time in 2 years, or just over 2 years now as well. So Louis Coyle was very good. It was his cross, lovely cross in that found Akintola for the goal. And it's funny because I thought at the time he's gonna sky this, and it looked like it was going miles over the bar, and I think it's hit Ogbene and skimmed off his arm into the top corner. But you need that slice of luck, and there's been games this season where they've not had that slice of luck. So Akintola got himself in the position, lovely ball in from Louis, and he stuck it in the net. He had one second half, and it was almost a carbon copy. He skied it over the bar, but this time it didn't take a deflection and go in the net. But if you're going to beat the top teams in the division, and yes, Sheffield United are still a massive scalp. Yes, they've had a nightmare start, but when you look at their squad and what they achieved last season, this is still a massive scalp. And they've, as I say, they've won the last 4 visits here. So you might need that bit of luck, and there are going to be times in the season where you don't have that bit of luck. It goes against you. Today it's gone for you, and you take it and thank you. So I think there were a lot of good performances. I thought it was a real blow to lose Lundstrom after 14 minutes. Amir Hadzimivtovic came on, and he was tidy, apart from one second half where the ball's come into him, and you're thinking, right, turn then, because City have got a bit of momentum going forward. And he's played it blind, and I think it was Campbell that's gone through, and Hughes has made a terrific block to stop him. But they look good in midfield. I thought Regan was very, very good today. Gilo on the left-hand side. Who was it? Let me go back just 1 second about Gilo. A lot of love for Gilo, and we all love him. Steve, he gets a lot of stick from everybody. I don't know if you've seen it or heard it, but I think after the Southampton game, I spoke to McBurney, and I sort of said to him, the link up with you and Gilo looks really, really good. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to try and get Gilo an England call up. Everybody was laughing, and he said, I said to him, what was Ryan's reaction to you saying you're going to get him an England call up? And he went, well, just typical Gilo. He just didn't really say anything. He just looked confused. You can tell there's a good team spirit. You can tell that there's a lot of banter around. They're having a good laugh, which is really important. And it's important in games like today. That mad scramble at the back end of the game where you just waited for the net to bulge, and you've got Crooksy throwing his body in there, Hughes, Egan, and they cleared it and they saw it out. Last season, 100% that's in the back of the net. There's no word. We've all seen it. You know as well as I do that if that scramble at 1-0, if that scramble happens last season, somebody from Sheffield United sticks it in. It's a really and you go, bloody hell, that's a really scruffy. How have we conceded that? But they found a way to not let that go in and get away with it. And then obviously the penalty, you have the penalty as well. But I think I just think it's been a good start to the season now. I think that result changes how if they'd have lost today, you go, well, they've got 9 points. It's been an average start, but they've only won 2 games. I think today kind of rubber stamps what has been, I think, a really positive start. When you factor in, when you chuck in all the caveats of new manager, not managing England, lots of new players, working under transfer restrictions, lots of injuries. I think to get out of this block of games, 9 games in and 12 points, having beaten Southampton, having beaten Sheffield United, having won 3 games at home out of 5, and the only game they lost was that Blackburn one where, that will rankle for a bit because there was so much illness. Had they have, who knows what would have happened on that day had everybody been not sick and not struggling. So you know, and obviously the point against Preston, which again that can happen. Teams in the Championship can come and you can go 2-0 down. It's about how you respond, and they got a point out of it. So I think, given you lost at Watford in the manner you lost, having been in complete control, to then respond with 4 points from 6, I think that's a real plus point for them, and to have kept a clean sheet as well. So I think everybody will feel going into this international break. I think everybody will be buoyed by the fact that they've, in this block of games, they've got a good point at Swansea. I think that's always a good point. They've beaten Southampton. Yes, they had the nightmare against Watford, but again, it's about how you respond. You're going to have setbacks. Even the best teams in this league have setbacks. It's about how you respond. And they've come back and they've got, you know, 4 from 6. So I think that's a real positive. You've got Liam Miller back in the team, back on, you know, another 20 odd minutes today. You've got McBurney on fire. You've got Matt Crooks back. You've got Ajay back. The only slight concern is Lundstrom. It's a calf problem, so we're going to have to wait and see how he is. But you'd hope that it's not serious, and that with a week, 10 days rest, he can be available for Birmingham at St Andrews after the international break. Bellumi, yes, you've lost Bellumi, but you've got him back. You've got him back on the pitch. So the hamstring issue is a concern, but that is something that you expect when you've had players out with ACLs for so long. We've just got to hope and pray that Liam Miller, great for him to go away with Canada. I think he's got games against Australia and Colombia in America. I think they're playing New Jersey and back in Canada as well. So lots of travelling. But if he can get 10, 15, 20 minutes over the next 2 games, he'll come back to City in better fettle than he's going now. You know, if he stayed here, you know, he plays in training and stuff, but he doesn't build up his minutes. So if he can build up his minutes without getting injured, obviously that would be big. You've also just got to hope that Egan gets back from Ireland unscathed, and Ajay with Nigeria. But you can't, playing for your country is the pinnacle of a player's career, so you can't begrudge him it, even if they have come back from injury. You know, it's a huge thing to play for your country, and it's good for City to have players called up to play for their country. But we wish them well and hope they come back. Interesting to see what happens with Casey Palmer. Who was it mentioned that? Steve, yeah, you've referenced Casey, not in the squad today. The manager said he wasn't in the right headspace to play. I'm guessing that is a response to what happened on Tuesday night. Obviously, he was hauled off at half-time. From what I gather, he didn't look too happy leaving the stadium, but he's a professional footballer. Of course he's not. First start in ages as a shocker, and he's one of 3 players jacked off at half-time. So he's not going to be, you know, rolling out of here doing cartwheels, is he? So that's one to watch over the next month or so with Casey Palmer. Lots of questions about Brandon Williams. Nothing sinister there. He's not played for 2 years. So I think it's a case of, you know, he's got to get himself fit and ready. I think he'll play on Tuesday at Coventry in the under-21s, along with 1 or 2 others. No Carl Joseph today. He phoned in sick this morning. He would have been in the team, but Carl was reported sick, so they had to shift it across. They had to bring Akintola into the opposite side. So we wish Carl well. But yeah, look, just really, Harry, we were dreadful in the second half. So much panic. We defended. I'm not sure they were dreadful. I'd say they didn't keep the ball enough. I would agree at times they panicked, but I think Sheffield United forced that on them. But I still think they looked relatively comfortable defensively for the most part. There were a couple of times when United got in, but it's easy to slag off City. But sometimes you have to accept that you're playing the level of opponent you're playing against, and you're playing a team that got 92 points last year. They were always going to be a threat, and they were always going to create something and have moments where they cause panic in the penalty area. That is just that's Championship football. Every team has those moments within games. It's about seeing it out and getting that little, you know, winning your tackle or winning your header or getting that little bit of slice of luck, which you need. If you're going to win any game at this level, you need a bit of slice of luck because it's so competitive and it's so even. But I never really felt under great strain, to be honest. If I'm brutally honest, I felt there was that period before we scored, that period in the first half where Hamer hit the post. That was when I felt a bit concerned, when they were knocking on the door big time, and they were looking quite bright. In the second half, it was a bit like watching Southampton, I thought, with lots of ball go from side to side, but really, whenever they got down the flanks, the crosses were blocked or the crosses went out of play. And then I just never felt like they were. There's always that nervousness because you're only 1-0 up and you're playing against a very good team at this level. So you're always going to have that sense of anxiety in a game, and I get that. And there was an element of anxiety as it goes on, but I never. I genuinely, it's not just me saying it. I felt second half that we were fairly comfortable. You then, the only way they get a penalty is from Ajay making a challenge that if he'd have played 5 or 6 games, he wouldn't have made it. That was a rustiness challenge, I thought. But then you need your goalkeeper to step up, and let's be honest, Ivor's had a poor start to the season. Defensively, as a collective, they've had a poor start to the season. He made a mistake on Tuesday night that cost them the goal. He's made up for it tonight because he's got them. He's got them 3 points. If he doesn't do that kick out on Tuesday night, perhaps they go and win the game. It's hindsight. We never know. Of course, we never know. But he stepped up. That's what he's there. He's paid to do that. He needed to do that, and in credit to him for that goal. I hope that gives him a springboard now and confidence, and also Hughes and Egan as well, because they've had a lot of stick and it's not been easy for them. But I thought, as I say, I thought those two particularly were very good today. But as a unit, Coyle and Giles, Slater and as well, I thought as a unit they defended really, really well. Delighted for Akintola because he's up and down. He's really inconsistent, but Big Dave got himself a goal. McBurney ran his heart out again. Probably should have scored. Deserved his ovation when he came off. He needs a rest because it's been a long slog for him since the start of the season, and he's up there on his own doing an awful lot of work. So I thought Gelhardt looked tired at times in the game. So I think we always have this chat, don't we, about the break. Has it come at the right time? Is it a good time? A bad time? If you've won 3 in a row, is it a bad time because you've got momentum? If you've lost, is it a bad time because you want another game to put it right? I think for City, this has come at a brilliant time. They're going into it on the back of 2 good results and 3 points today. It gives them a chance to take stock. It gives you've got players coming back from injury that have got on the pitch. Ajay's got on the pitch. Crooks has got on the pitch. It gives them chance. They've got minutes in their legs and just to have a breather. Players like Louis, who has not had a pre-season, has come back into the team and has played every minute since Swansea. Gives him chance to just have a few days off. McBurney's really important. They've got to wrap him in cotton wool. As I say, Hughes, Egan, or Egan's obviously off with Ireland, but Giles, he's played a lot of football. Gives him. It's just, I think it's come at the right time for them to all have a few days off, take stock of where they're at, and then come back. And they'll come back rather than coming back on the back of a defeat like a month ago. They're coming back on the back of that hammering at Bristol City, and then they're going to Swansea, which is a really difficult game back. But this time they're going into it, on the back of a good point against Preston coming from behind, beating Sheffield United with a clean sheet. Whenever they go in terms of training and stuff, when they get back to the training ground, they'll have a spring in their step, and they'll go to Birmingham, which I think is a very winnable game. I watched them last night against Wrexham and weren't all impressed with them, to be honest. But as we know with any game in this league, particularly away from home, it's rock solid. But they'll go there full of heart and a bit of confidence that actually we can keep clean sheets, we can be defensively resolute and solid, and if we can start getting 3 or 4 clean sheets in the next 5 or 6 games, we've got a chance of looking up the table. It all depends on what happens with the fixtures, the results for the rest of today. But as I say, at the start of the play, they're a point off the top 6. They could well be 1 or 2 points off the top 6 going into the 10th game of the season. It's about 10, 12 games where we start to see things settle down and start to make assessments of where teams are at in their journey, in their season. I think perhaps that 10-game yardstick has maybe moved to 15 with the window closing a month into the season. But either way, I still 10 games is an important kind of milestone in the season, and City are going to go into it, with 12. Well, for now, 12 points on the board. They're scoring goals, and they finally kept a clean sheet. They've got everything in their locker to have a good season. So we shall see what happens over the next couple of. I don't know if it's Destan's brother or his dad or Destan's biggest fan, Partridge style, is commenting on Destan. But he came off the bench and I think he'll play on Tuesday night. Mike, with Casey Palmer, yeah, I asked the gaffer about that, and he said his head wasn't in the right place to play. So I've got more in depth. I'll have something more in depth on Casey Palmer over the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that. And for those asking about John Lundstrom, calf problem. He obviously tried to run it off, but he didn't want to take any risks. There's no need to take any risks. They've got a replacement, and they can give him 2 weeks now to recover. So hopefully that isn't as serious. That isn't too serious. Yeah, Paul second half sat back and invited pressure. Yeah, I get that they did invite pressure, but as I say, they're 1-0 up away. They're 1-0 up at home to Sheffield United. Sheffield were really pressing. Yeah, obviously it would have been great to see him grab hold of the game and go and get a second and a third goal. But sometimes in this league, you've got to just grind it out. You know, it was a really difficult game. The conditions were terrible. I think in an ideal world, yeah, they'd have gone and done what they did to Southampton, but it wasn't that. It didn't feel that kind of game really. And as I say, they've sat in, and actually in some respects, I think doing what they did second half is a good thing for them, because they had to scrap, they had to graft, they had to fight for challenges, for headers, to stop crosses and do the ugly stuff. I think that will set them well going forward. They've proved to themselves and everybody else watching that, yes, they can do it. So when they're 1-0 up away from home, or when they're 1-0 up at home with 10 minutes to go, they can shut up shop. And we're not, okay, we'll take off the striker, we'll bring on Destan, we'll, we've got a bit of fresh legs, but we are confident we can close out. And, City did, you look at Sheffield United last year, and okay, they didn't get promoted, but Sheffield United over the years have been able to get 1-0, grind out 1-0 wins when they've not played well. How many 1-0 wins do promoted teams get? They get a lot of them when they're not playing well. When the backs are against the wall potentially, they find a way to win the game, and that's what City have out Sheffield United today. City have done to Sheffield United what Sheffield United do to so many teams. Not this season, admittedly, they've had difficulties, but historically, they've always ground out 1-0 wins, and the good teams do that. So I don't mind. Yes, as I say, ideally, we all would have loved City to be swashbuckling in the second half and go and score 3 or 4 and kill the game off on the hour. But I think for the growth and the progress of this football team, having that level of performance second half is not a bad thing, because it's shown that they can fight it and grit it out, and they can fall back and just go, we'll win 1-0. Okay, we're going to struggle to get a second goal. If it comes, great, but we're not going to go kamikaze. We're not going to leave ourselves wide open and get cut to pieces and lose the game 2-1, which could have happened. We're going to sit in and take what we've got. Yes, there's a risk attached with that. You're only one mistake, one deflection away from conceding. One mistake in terms of Vijay giving away the penalty. Yes, they got a bit of luck, but look, how many times have I sat in this bloody car park and gone, that's a game they should never have lost. Mistake, bit of luck has gone against them. Well, perhaps the bit of luck has gone their way today with Hamer hitting the post and Burrows picking out Pandur. Credit and take nothing away, because obviously goalkeepers do their prep. So, I don't doubt that Pandur would have known exactly how many penalties Burrows puts that side against how many penalties he goes the other side. So, yeah. But I agree with Gauhart. I didn't think he was at it today. The Ennis Destan fan club is still running high. Andy, I mentioned Brandon Williams a bit further up. Again, I've got plenty coming out on that in the next couple of days. He's just not apparently at the level to get into the first team squad, but he has been out for 2 years, so he needs time. Yeah, Richard, agree with you. Still work in progress, but lots of positive signs. They're positive. Yeah, I heard John Eustace talking the other day at the club that I can't name, and he was talking about, well, we're doing really well, we're picking up points when we're not at our best, and we're still in transition, we're a work in progress, but we're still picking up points. They were bottom 3, bottom 4 of the table. So City have got 12 points on the board, and they're a team in transition. They've got a new manager. Eustace came in the back end of last season, so he's had a lot more time than Jurkovic. City have also been having to work with a transfer embargo and then fee restrictions, and sign a lot of players, some of which haven't played a lot, and they've had a lot of injuries. It's no hard luck story, but if other managers at the bottom of the table can say, I'm fairly happy because we're picking up points, I think City, you have to be really happy with where they're at right now. They're not the finished article. No team at any level, anywhere in the world, is the finished article after 9 games of a season. But what we've seen in the first 9 games, even the Wrexham game in the Cup, which, the 3-1 up with 90 seconds of injury time to go, and they draw 3-3. I think what we've learned in the first 10 competitive games is they are a team going in the right direction. They are a team with a good structure. They are a team with characters. They are a team with real goal threats, obviously from McBurney, but we've seen Galhart, we've seen Lundstrom, Akintola getting on the score sheet, albeit with a bit of a fortunate one. Doesn't matter, in the cold light of day, he's got on the score sheet. So we're seeing a goal threat. We're seeing elements of the ability to defend. I thought they were better. If we think back to Bristol City, where they were a mess, and they 29 shots on their goal, conceded 4, 3 on the woodwork. They've gone to Swansea, yes, conceded twice, but they kept Swansea. It sounds mad when they've conceded twice, but Swansea's only 2 shots on target. They were better at Swansea. They were better against Southampton. They would have got a clean sheet, but for 95th minute goal from Adam Armstrong. Yes, they weren't great second half at Watford, and they were a mess at times on Tuesday night, but they were much better today. They've got a clean sheet. So they're kind of like a bit up and down defensively, but that today I think will give them a huge amount of confidence. And there are signs that they can do it. We know that they've shown they can do it. Now it's about, as Regan said to me, it's about finding that consistency. The challenge for this team is to now put a run together. It's 46, 47 games now since they last won 2 in a row. They're going to go away to Birmingham, really difficult game, but that's a game they can go and win. Make no mistake about it, they can go and win that. Then they've got Leicester here, as well. Who knows what's going to happen, what you're going to get with Leicester. You've got Pompey coming here as well. You've got Charlton coming here. So you've got winnable games coming up. If this team is going to be a team that can challenge from like top 10, and by virtue, if you're in the top 10, you're in with a shout at top 6. They've got to start. They've got to go on a run now. They've got to win 3 or 4 games. You've got 6 games coming up before the next break. Go and win 3 of them. Go and win 3 or 4 of them, and give yourself a real chance. So that for me is the hope. This little cluster of games, they've won 2. They've lost a couple. They've lost 1, and they've drawn a couple as well. So I think the signs are there that there's a makings of a really good team, a really good group under a manager that is learning. It wasn't pretty second half. Of course it wasn't, but it's not always going to be pretty. And sometimes you've just got to grind it out. And to grind it out against Sheffield United, I think, is a fantastic sign. Jordan, pleased for Pandur. The penalty save will do his conference. Would have agreed. What's your thoughts on the manager so far? I've said it before, Jordan. I'm a big fan of Jakirovic. I really like him. I think he's charismatic. I think he's personable. He's got a good personality. He's astute. If you think of, it's funny because on Tuesday night I remember writing in our matchday blog that he needed to take off Palmer, Hadzimatovic and Drame, and he wasn't afraid to make those 3 changes at half time, and he made them, and they've got him a point. He wasn't, I thought as well the Drame change at Watford was logical because Watford were really good down the wings, and I think Drame is good going both ways. And he created 4 opportunities, Drame, at Watford. I think what did for Jakirovic on Tuesday was sticking with it. But then Drame, did he do anything to get himself out of the team at Watford? Probably not. So he kept faith. But he's not afraid to make changes. He's going to make mistakes. All managers make mistakes. Even the best managers in the Premier League make mistakes. So I think he's learning about his players. He's learning about the Championship. He's not going to get it right every week. And I think if we hold him to account that he should get it right all game, every game, I think we're living in cloud cookie land. I think that isn't a reality. I do think he's adapting really well. Clearly the players like him. Casey Palmer maybe has fallen out with him because of what happened the other night, but Casey didn't play well enough. Let's be honest. If you're going to come into the team and it's hard because if you're not in the team and you come into the team, the pressure is on you to perform. But that is the life of a professional footballer. That is why you're paid thousands and thousands of pounds a week. That when you get your chance, in a competitive environment, you've got to take it. And if you don't perform, then you know you're going to be out the team, and that's how it should be. You know, it's not. Well, I play crap, so I expect to keep my shirt. If I don't play well enough, if I don't perform, I'm going to be out the team, and that's how it should be at this level. So Casey will feel annoyed. He'll feel angry that he was hauled off at half time. And as I said on Tuesday night, he could have pulled off any of the 11 players on the pitch. He can't make 11 changes. So he made the 3 that I thought he should have made at half time, and he made them. It's unfortunate Casey was one of them, but ultimately we didn't play well enough. So you can't then complain you're not in the team the following game if you don't play well enough. So I like him. It's still early. Jordan, but I think most fans would be impressed with what they've seen from Jurkovic so far. The fact that, given the fact he walked into the club and 2 days later they were under a transfer embargo and he was told, oh, by the way, you can't buy anybody. The players you got lined up that we wanted to sign and pay money for, we can't sign them anymore. I think he's doing really well. And he's a personable guy. And as I say, I really, really like him. And I really hope he's successful, because if he is successful, we all win, don't we? We get a team that wins football matches. We get that place fuller than it was today. And everybody feels good about it, don't they? And this team gets back in the Premier League. That's what we all want. And ultimately, he's a manager that, he's got something about him. And I like him. I really like him. The most important thing, doesn't really matter what I think. It matters what the players think. And if the players are buying into his methods and his style, then there's half a chance of winning a lot of football matches. And that's their challenge now, is to win a lot of football matches. Destin comments. I apologise. I'm not au fait with the Destin stuff. I'm getting like Jed vibes from Alan Partridge. Palmer, yeah. Ultimately, players not in the team, and players are not, any footballer worth their salt, Mike, when they're not in the team is it should be angry. You know, if you're not in the team or in the squad on the match day, you shouldn't be there, you know, buzzing, should you? You should be angry and frustrated and banging on the manager's door. Why? And fixing it and making sure that next week you're in the squad. Danny, agree with you. I think we've seen that. That's something that's impressed me as well. I think we've seen that in the early weeks of the season. He's adaptable. You can play that swashbuckling football against Oxford. You can be resolute and sit in against Southampton, against a team that have got, with respect, better players. You can say, go on, have the ball then, and we'll ping you on the counter-attack and we'll punish you. And that's what they did. Go on, Sheffield United, you've got a lot of value in your squad. You can have the ball, but we'll get a goal and we'll shut up shop and we'll keep you out. And that's the thing. I think when they need to play on the front foot, they can play on the front foot. When they need to sit in, they can sit in. So I think that's for me is what has really impressed me. We're seeing different types of setups, of styles from him so far. Let's not forget, we're 9 games into the season. So long to go. So I think we're at a good stage already. Don't want to get too excited. I'm not running before we can walk and starting to count chickens before they've even thought about hatching. But I would be, I think, to have 12 points at this stage of the season with some difficult games in there, I think that is, yes, it could be better. Of course it could be better. But this is a team that survived on goal difference. So to be up in that, you know, towards the playoffs sat on 12 points in double figures with, you know, with 3 home wins, the challenge for them is to go and do it away now. That's the next step. It looks like they've found a way to win games at home, 3 wins and a draw in 5. Now the challenge is to go and do that at Birmingham. Go and get a result at Birmingham. Go and win a game away from home, and then we'll start to see, you know, what this City team is really like. Danny, that is yeah. Ultimately, when you 1-0 up, you're only, as I said before, you're liable for a mistake, and it came, but they got out of jail. Pandur got them out of jail in terms of that moment. But I still don't think Sheffield United offered very little at all. Or again, like Southampton, all the ball, no idea. And that really surprised me. I really expected this to be it was a difficult game. It was a tight game, but I expected more from Sheffield United, if I'm honest, under Chris. But alas, it's not. That isn't our problem. So, Paul, I thought we missed you. I disagree. I thought we missed Carl Joseph. I thought we missed his pressing. I thought we missed his energy. So I respect your opinion, Paul, but I did think we missed Carl Joseph today. But that's football is all about opinions. Danny, yeah, United defended well, they did, but they weren't put under a huge amount of pressure second half. But City's defence was better. Yeah, agree, David, about Regan. I thought Regan was very good today. I'm going to close up very soon. Gelhardt struggling. I think Gelhardt is up and down. I think he's inconsistent, and that's probably, I love Joff, but that's probably why Gelhardt is playing at Hull City and not playing for Leeds United in the Premier League, because if he was consistent, he's got real ability, Joe. But if he was consistent and delivering 7 out of 10s every week and scoring goals and getting assists, he would be probably playing for Leeds, or if not Leeds, around, he'd be maybe playing higher up. And that's not a criticism of Joe, because I think I love him, and I think on this day he's fantastic, and he's got something in him. But he like this team needs to find that consistency, and that's why he's in and out of the team, because he's not consistent. That's why he was dropped against Preston from Watford. I mean, he had a hand in the goal at McBurney's goal at Watford, but it was other bright moments. But it's delivering all afternoon consistently, and that's why he was out of the team. But I'm a big fan of him, and he'll come good. He's still a young player, and he still hasn't played that many games at this level. So yeah, agree with you. Joffrey will come good. Steve, it's an interesting comment. It's an interesting relationship with the manager. Fans not singing his name yet, but he certainly has the team playing some decent, enjoyable football. I think it's a quiet respect for him. I would agree. I was a bit surprised at the constant chanting for Ruben. I know it was ironic and aimed at the Sheffield United fans to point out that, blah, blah. I get that. I kind of got the first round of Ruben Sayers after the goal, just ironic football fan chants, but the rest, there was a lot of it second half, which I'm not having a pop at all before anybody starts coming for me. I was just a bit surprised about the level of Ruben chanting. Bearing in mind, he's no longer the manager here, and there's a manager there that's winning the game of football. But yeah, I think there's been a few Sergei give us a wave chants. There was one at Stockport in the summer, and it took him ages for him to realise what they were chanting before somebody on the bench actually made him aware, and he waved. Look, I think there's a quiet respect for the manager here, but yeah, that's the way it goes. But as I say, I was a bit surprised about the amount of Ruben chants. But that's just an opinion before anybody starts trying to come at me with a pickaxe. Yeah, agreed with that. I agree that Danny about the chant. Yeah, he's doing a really good job for me. So right, Danny, my thoughts on Adjun taking fans out for tea. It's a nice gesture. I don't think we need to look any deeper than that. It's a nice gesture. The owner asked the club to find some fans to take out for dinner. Some people will think it's weird. Some people will think it's a nice gesture. I don't think we need to read anything into it. I think some people question about some fans being given special treatment, but look, the guy owns the football club. The guy puts the money into it. If he wants to take out 10 City fans out for an Italian on a Friday night before a game while he's here, is that a bad? I don't know. It's like the holidays. Yeah, there's a lot of people get slag people off for going, slag people off for not going, slag people off for slagging people off, and then everybody slags each other off. Look, you've got an owner here that does things differently, and there would be people that like that, and there would be people that don't like that. As always, everyone has their own opinion. Do I see any problem in it in doing that last night? Probably not really. I think we can just take it on face value and go, that's quite a nice gesture. I think the club could have made more of it if they'd have been given, I think the people behind the scenes, if they'd have been given more time, more notice that it was happening, it could have made a really nice feature for the club to put out. But look, yeah, I don't think any more of it. I just think it's a nice gesture and what have you. I think not many clubs. I think what I would say is I think City are fantastic, genuinely, and I'm not just saying it. They don't pay me to say it. They don't ask me to say it, but I do think City are fantastic in the work they do in the community, the work they do with the fans, whether it be the fans' holidays, which I know are logistical nightmares, but it's great for the fans. the stuff they do on the local level here. Obviously, the Tigers Trust work, but they've got the open day during half term where you can watch the players train. I know a lot of clubs do that, but they've got the bowling event where a group of fans can go bowling with the players and sign autographs. They do the FIFA nights, they do the evening with nights with the owner. No smirking at the back. They do the evening with nights with the legends and stuff like that. So I think the football club do a phenomenal amount of work with their supporters. A lot of it goes unnoticed as well. And how many other clubs have their owner at this level take some fans out and give them a meal? Look, as I say, you think what you think, and for me, I'm okay. I don't see it as necessarily a problem. Danny, who's wild to blame for that loss? His players, basically. Yeah, basically. So I think he said on his he didn't say it in our written press conference, but I think on his Sky interview, words to the effect of the players need to give the head a wobble. Yes, the staff can do this, that, and the other, but ultimately it's the players that need to go out and perform. So if you've not seen that, you'll be able to probably read about that on the website tomorrow. Tony, yeah, I agree with you about Giles and Coyle. Jordan, yes, Adjun was here. He's been over basically since Watford. He flew over last week. He was down in London for a couple of days around the Watford game. Then he was back up in Hull this week. Obviously at the game, he was at the pressing game. He was at training. He's been at training. He was at training on Thursday. Obviously, as Danny referenced there, he took some fans out for dinner last night. He went shortly after the final whistle here, because I think he's going to. He's flying to Slovenia to watch Maribor play. So, in terms of his expectations, they're talking top 10. But when you've got players like McBurney and you're paying players, you've got a £24 million wage bill. I'm going to have to talk a bit louder now because of the rain. When you've got a £24 million wage bill, I think your site should be higher than the top 10. I think you've got to be looking top 6. So we'll see what happens. Harry, main difference between the team this year to last year? Interesting question, and something I'll be probably tackling over the international break, because I've got 2 weeks to fill over the break with no games, although I'm having a few days off. The manager, for one, and the squad. I think the players like the manager. I think that probably helps a bit. They've got players that can make a difference. They've got, they were completely impotent up front last year. They're not this year. They've got McBurney and they've got other players that can chip in. They've got threats out wide. So I think, there's some major differences, but the fundamental one is the players like the manager and they're playing for him. So I think that hopefully answers that question. Just a quick scroll through. Ian, yeah, good. You make a really good point. I'm glad you've raised it. I was really concerned about Gavin Ward because I've seen him a lot over his career and I've never been massively impressed by Gavin Ward. I've got to be honest. But I actually thought he was very good today. He let the game flow. He wasn't... He wasn't one of these referees that are all about. I was unfortunate enough to be at the City Ground on Thursday night for Forest against Midtjylland in the Europa League, and I'm not. Forest were garbage. Humour me here. Forest were absolutely garbage and deserved to get beat, but the French referee was horrific. He was bitty. He never let the game flow. He was always in the way. He never moved from the middle of the park. Every time any team tried to move through midfield, he was there. And I remember back before kickoff, and when they were doing all the pre-match stuff they do, and he stood there with his assistants, right in front of the TV cameras, and he was smiling. I was right at the front of the main stand, behind the dugouts, and I could see he was just stood there, and the cameras were focused on him, and it kind of set the tone for a performance that became all about him. And we see it in England so many times as well. Referees want to be the story. The best referees are the ones you never notice, you never hear from until you see a decision and go, oh, he's got that right. And I thought Gavin Ward was very good today. He got the big decision right for the penalty at the end. It was a Ajayi on Danny Ings. It was a penalty. I thought generally he let the game flow. Really difficult conditions, horrific conditions to play football in. Tight game, difficult game. I thought there'll always be somebody that comes, well, he got this wrong or he got that wrong, that is just so much of it is subjective. But I've got to be honest. I'm glad you've raised that, Ian, because I do sometimes have a pop at referees, But I thought Gavin, and as I say, when I saw his name, no disrespect to Gavin Ward, but he's come across in the past as a referee for me that is a bit too egocentric. That is a bit, it's about me, and he might be. I don't know him, and he might be nothing like that in real life. He might be, completely unassuming. But in performances at times, I felt that he's too. He becomes a story. But not today. I thought he refereed it very well. So credit to him. Yeah, Lee, scrappy win, but let's have him. Let's have him. Yeah, Oliver, I'm here. Bloody hell, yeah. That when he passed it back, crikey, Hughesy got him out of that. Some great comments coming in, folks. Get them into the 1904 Club and on Twitter, because we'll have a pod on Monday to reflect on this and just kind of take pause. I think we all need to pause for breath now. It's been 10 games to start the season, 9 in the league, 1 in the cup. It's been a hectic start. It's going to be a hectic month when we come back after the break with 6 games in 3 weeks. So I think we can all just pause and reflect on what I think. And I think it's been a positive start to the season for Hull City. Yeah, agreed, Andy, on Regan. Agreed with that. Christian, Crooks looked way off it. I'm not sure about. Again, in fact, I respect your opinion, but I thought Crooksy was brilliant when he came on. He cleared off the line. He won a couple of tackles. He did a Klinsmann dive late on. I thought, it's a difficult game for him to come into, but there was a moment, I think in injury time, where he got the ball 25 yards from his own goal, and one of the Sheffield United players just ran into him, bounced off him, and he ran away with the ball. I actually thought it was a really good cameo from Crooksy. And as I say, the clearance off the line was massive. So, but we all have our opinions. Just quickly, Danny Pandur, he's been up and down. Charlie on Palmer. I haven't got time to go through it on here, I'm afraid. I will be writing something about it to explain more, but suffice to say, Palmer wasn't overly impressed with being hacked off the other night, and has subsequently been hacked off and wasn't in the squad today, and they only had 8 subs. Yeah, Christian, that's one of the things I love about Sergei, is he's honest. You ask him a question, you'll get an answer. You don't have to. He might not, his English is very good, certainly better than my Croatian, but he gives you an answer. He doesn't bull what. So many managers you can speak to, and they try and blind you with science, or they try and blind you with technical garbage. He just says it as he sees it, and I think that's what fans love about him. I think that's what fans respect, that he just is honest. If he's played well, if we've played well, we played well. If we made an error, we made an error. Just don't try and, we can all watch football. We all know what football is. Yeah, people try and overcomplicate it, but football's a dead simple game. And you got 20,000 fans come to a game. They all watch it. Most of them, apart from the ones that come in and then go for a fag break after 10 minutes. Most of them sit there and watch it. You can't be fooled. Most people know if a player's having a good game, or if a player's having a bad game, or if it's a good team performance or bad team performance. We're not stupid. So don't. So many managers and people in football try and make fans out, and people that watch it to be stupid. We can all work out what we're seeing for the most part. We can't all maybe see some of the technical bits and pieces, and this, that, and the other. That's okay, But I think most fans can appreciate that Jurkovic is honest, and he won't sugarcoat it. And if his team haven't played well, he won't come out and say we played well. At Watford last week, he didn't come out. He came out and said we were rubbish. Basically, we were rubbish in the second half. Well, I knew that, and the 1,200 fans that were at Vicarage Road knew that as well. So don't come out and say we've played really, really well in that second half. I don't know how we've lost, because it's garbage, And you have the fans lose respect for you as a manager if you come out and try and pull the wool over their eyes, because they're all seeing it. They pay hundreds, and and in Lee Walker's case, thousands to go and watch football all over the country. Don't diss them, and don't try and claim they're stupid and say, oh, we played well when we didn't. Just be honest, and I think that's why fans like him. Right, I need to call it a day. We did, Andy. Yeah, we had exactly the points this time last season as we've got now. That was helped by 3 wins in a row, wasn't it? 3 wins in that week. This time last year, you had we obviously won at Stoke to kick it all off. Then thumped Cardiff in the big anniversary game. and then won at QPR, but could have been 5-0 down at QPR inside 10 minutes, but for Pandur. Then went to Norwich, fateful afternoon, game before the break, and got tonked 4-0? So, yes, they've got the same points, but I think we'd all agree everything feels a little bit more different and a little bit more positive this time, 12 months on. Right, I'm going to call it a day, but I'll just quickly on... I want to mention that. Benjamin, how bitter is Wilder trying to unsettle McBurney? I've got to be honest, I was really taken aback when I looked on Sheffield United's official website on Friday, yesterday, and the main story was Wilder talking about Ollie McBurney. I can't remember ever a time where an opposition manager, pre-match, before a big game, would... The lead story on their website, their official website, club channel, would be about an opposition player. It took me by surprise, I've got to be honest. So, look, he wanted Wilder would have had wanted McBurney back, but make no mistake about it, McBurney wanted to come here. City worked really hard to get him here. They made it clear from the first minute they could that they wanted him, and players like that, we all want to feel loved, unless we're narcissists. We all want to feel loved and valued, and McBurney was let go by Wilder. Let's not forget that the year before. Whether there's complications, whether that was whether that was Chris's decision, whether that was a club decision, whatever, it's a moot point. They let him go. City, between Jared and Hodgie and Adjon and Jurkovic and everybody else associated with that recruitment team, they worked their knackers off to convince McBurney that this was the football club for him to come back to. If he was coming back to England, this was the club to come back to. And he's been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I love him. Wonderful to talk to. One of the best interviews I've done in terms of like the most enjoyable, because you can have a chat with him. And he gives you good answers. He says good stuff. He's not one of these players that so many clubs try and sanitize their coverage, their players. They basically a lot of clubs put players under in straitjackets and say, you can't say this and you can't say that. So in the end, they say nothing, and the fans get nothing out of it. So you want characters, you want players that, give their opinion. Clubs shouldn't be afraid of players giving an opinion. It shows they're human, and fans can relate to them rather than these highly paid footballers that live in, are on a pedestal, are untouchable. When you've got somebody like McBurney that has a laugh about Ryan Giles or a laugh about Liam Miller being annoying and stuff like that, but a great lad, it shows they're human, and it gives me and in turn you guys as fans a real good insight into what it's like in the inner sanctum, rather than this like place you can't touch and you've got no idea what goes on behind closed doors, and all the players are like robots because they're not allowed to. They're scared of saying anything because the club is so petrified. That's not good. So yeah, as for Wilder, I asked him about it after the game, and he said I wasn't trying to unsettle him. I wasn't trying to be clever. I just gave an opinion. So ultimately, it didn't. Whatever happened, I know he's not scored today, but he put a shift in, got a standing ovation. Now he's sat at home with his trotters up. Right, I'm going to call it a day there, folks. Otherwise, I'll never get home, and I've got a lot of work to do for Sunday and Monday. So thanks for all your comments. As always, get them in at the 1904 Club on Twitter. We'll have a podcast for you on Monday. There will be plenty of stuff coming over the international break. I'm going to have a few days off as well, but there will be there will still be plenty of stuff. And then obviously we'll then be building to the return of the Championship the back end of the week after, when we prepare for that trip to St Andrews and Birmingham City. They drew 1-1 at Wrexham on Friday night. So City should be going there in good heart. Thanks everybody, as always, for watching. Thanks for your comments. Do keep them coming, as I say, at the 1904 Club on Twitter. And I will see you again soon. Have a great weekend. Up the Tigers.